hit that button and watch the herd roll in. Oh, I got a joke for you while people come in. It's actually about herding. A farmer was out in his field and he counted that he had 297 cows. But when he rounded them up, he had 300. It's a rounding up joke.
I'm too distracted. I'm watching people come in. Oh, somebody thought it was funny.
Yeah. LaSalle thought it was funny.
Yeah.
She knows what I'm talking about.
Hey, Bob.
I did hear another.
The farmer's wife knows that it was funny.
I did hear another one. Do you know why Valley girls only like odd numbers?
No.
Because they can't even.
Katie, have you ever been with us before?
No, we recently
Awesome.
joined the community. My husband has von Willebrand, but he kind of grew up with it. And our daughter tested negative, but our 1-year-old son just tested positive. And I'm pregnant again, so we'll see what the next one brings.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Claps
that's great
in chat.
news.
Claps in chat.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome
Very
to have
exciting.
you. Welcome
Yes,
to have
indeed. All right. Well, welcome all. Joan, if you see any more people pop in while I do the intro, go ahead and hit the old emit button.
Will do.
We pop up the slide right here. So a little bit about us. We are Chess, and we are also nSpiration, established in 2019. Chess was founded by my mother, Janet, as well as Eric Lowe. Our initial focus was a health management company, and our focus was on inhibitors, rare bleeding disorders, women with bleeding disorders, and it led to things like this, where we do virtual sessions, educational sessions. We used to do them in person pre-COVID, and we're really actually hoping that in the next few months, end of the year, that we actually get to see some of you again, and hopefully we do a live event or two, which would be just a wonderful, wonderful gift to cap out the potential end of a pandemic in the end of the year. A little bit about nSpiration. nSpiration was established about 6 years ago, with the board being Joe Gibbons, Trisha Corbett, Barb, who is on the call with us. Love you, Barb. Our charitable campaign chair is Connie. I don't know if I haven't seen Connie, but Connie's gonna be doing a couple presentations for us coming up. We love having Connie. Just so popular. It's hard to nail her down. And that focus is to provide access to education through travel scholarships, economic hardship funds, and support and resources for the community. So Chess and nSpiration working hand in hand to keep up with this awesome community and give you guys the education and the support you guys need pre-COVID, post-COVID, now, in the future. And then real quick, before we actually get into the winners of last week's eval draw, some of you may have received an invitation via me or via Eric for a chance to participate in Novo Nordisk Virtual Patient Consumer Council. If you are a patient with hemophilia B or a patient with hemophilia B with an inhibitor, if you're interested in this opportunity, please send a message to Joan privately, and we can get the link to you as soon as possible, if not like within the end of this session tonight. Participants are going to be sharing their personal experiences and their thoughts on the meeting materials. Generous compensation for those who are choosing to participate. I think it's almost like $100 an hour. It's a good deal. Participants will complete the pre-screener. That's where the link comes in. Times are to be determined, but they're thinking at the end of May, the beginning of June, and it's time sensitive, so act fast. And without further ado, I'm going to get to the winners from last week. We had a bunch of people submit evaluations from last week's presentation with Dr. Guy Young, which was an awesome presentation. If you guys were there, thank you for being there. If you weren't, actually we did share that. Eric just finished the link today. That's what it was. And we will be sharing that via YouTube. And I'm going to go ahead and give this a spin. The first winner is going to be Blanca. John, you got that? Got it.
Okay, got it.
And then I'm
Well
going to
done.
pop Blanca off, and we're going to spin for the second winner. Royal.
Royal
Awesome.
Smith.
Awesome. Yes,
Nice.
indeed.
All right.
All right. Those are our two winners from last week. And then I'm going to pop myself back up here. And then, Joan, I'm going to throw it over to you to read the bio for our awesome presentation that we have tonight and presenter, Tina Willis from the Indiana Hemophilia Treatment Center. And she's a nutritionist. She has a wonderful presentation on eating yourself healthy. So without further ado, Joan, you want to take her bio away?
I would love to do that. Hi, everybody. Great to see you all. Nice turnout again. Thank you for supporting us. So Tina earned her undergraduate degree in business administration and marketing from Indiana University, and then went back to school for her master's beginning at the University of North Carolina in Greensboro and graduating from Ball State University. Her experience includes working as a clinical dietitian in a hospital setting, at a cancer center, and a cardiac rehab center. She was also a director of nutrition and wellness marketing for a local chain of 94 supermarkets, as well as a public health dietitian. She's worked at the Indiana HTC for almost 14 years. She lives in Fishers, Indiana, which I'm not sure where that is, Tina. You'll have to tell us how far it is from Indianapolis. She's married. She has 2 children, 2 grandchildren, and she enjoys reading, cooking, baking, and exercising. She never tires of talking about food and nutrition, and we're really looking forward to her presentation tonight. But before you start, Tina, how far are you from Indianapolis?
Where Indianapolis ends, we begin. So we are just northeast of Indianapolis, and actually the HTC that I work for is in Indianapolis. So just a stone's throw away.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I really am very excited to be here. And as Joan just said, one of my favorite things to talk about is nutrition. And I grab at any opportunity that there is to talk about it. So hopefully you will enjoy listening to me as much as I'm going to enjoy the presentation tonight. So tonight we're going to talk about eating yourself healthy. First of all, I just kind of wanted to get us thinking a little bit. Every day we make hundreds and, it could be argued, thousands of choices. And some of those choices may appear to us, or they may be very insignificant. Like, for example, when you get up in the morning, are you going to wear your blue t-shirt or your white t-shirt? Or when you watch TV in the evening, are you going to finish binging that Netflix series that you like? Or are you going to try something that a friend of yours has recommended? So, both of those, they're decisions that we make every day, but they're not really going to impact our life significantly one way or the other, depending on the decision that we make. Some of them are more significant. So, for example, you wake up in the morning and you have a toothache. Your decision as to whether you call your dentist right away, or if you choose, maybe you're going to say, I'm going to wait a couple of days and see what happens to my tooth. Well, all of that can have a big impact on what happens to your tooth and the treatment that you receive. Another big decision, for example, could be you're driving down the street and there is the traffic light turns from green to yellow. All right, are you going to drive through that yellow light, or are you going to stop? So, that can be a pretty significant decision. So other decisions, though, are a little more in the gray area. And what I look at that maybe people think their nutrition issues or their nutrition decisions or what they're going to eat on a day-to-day basis fall into that area. So, again, maybe you're on your way to work in the morning and you're thinking what you're going to have for breakfast. And, you think, gosh, should I go through the drive-through and get a bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit, or should I have some yogurt and fruit? Then, you go through the day, and then in the evening, you have dinner and you're thinking, I have a sweet tooth and I'd really like to have something to kind of quell or quench that sweet tooth. So am I going to have a bowl of ice cream, or am I going to have some fresh fruit? And so in and of themselves, each of those decisions may not be significant, but when you think of all the food issues or the food choices and decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis, overall, they accumulate and they become a pretty big deal, especially because they are going to have an effect on our health and well-being. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to get some feedback from you on our first question. And I'm going to talk a little bit about these. There's 5 different choices. And what I'd like for you all to think about right now is which of these 5 areas you feel that you fit in. So the first one is, my food choices are not really the greatest, but they're okay. And I'm really going to stick with them as is for now. The second is, my food habits, they're not really great, but I'm going to change, but I'm not going to change right now. The third one is, I'm ready to change my eating habits right now. The fourth one is, I may not be perfect, but I'm a healthy eater and I'm really good with what I'm doing. And then the fifth one is, healthy eating comes naturally to me and I don't really need to do anything else. So if you can kind of let us know where you think you fit in there.
All right. So what I have up on my screen, I just go ahead and spotlighted my video. This is one of the Swift polls that we've used in the past. You can vote by texting a text message to 520-433-4098. Text 1 for my food choices are okay as they are. 2 for I'll change my eating habits, but not now. 3 for I'm ready to eat smarter starting now. Text 4 for I'm already a healthy eater. Text 5, healthy eating is second nature to me. Actually, I'm going to copy that number in the chat real quick. And if folks want to just respond in chat and they don't have their phone handy, they can also just put 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 in the chat as well. Got a few in the middle. Got, I'll change my eating habits, but not now. 3, I'm ready to eat smarter, starting now. We're getting 4 more for that. Pop back over that screen just so people can see it real quick. Getting 2s and 3s in the chat. 4, 4, 4, 4. Okay. So it looks like people are pretty willing to start eating, healthier.
Okay, all right. And the reason that this is important is I always ask people when I see some of our patients at the HTC that I work at, and they tell me that they think, a lot of times people think they should change, but then I say, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you? Because if you think you need to change, but you're nowhere near making those changes, a lot of times it just becomes a very frustrating endeavor. And so, you kind of, I think, I tell people, well, you know what, I can follow up with you in a month, or I can follow up with you in 6 months. And let's kind of get to the point where you're ready to make the change. That way we can start working on it. And believe me, it's a little bit less frustrating when you do it that way. So next, for those of you who are thinking, you know what, I'm ready to make a change. I want to eat healthier. If you could make one change to your current eating habits, what would that change be?
So also the same for the response for this. You can vote by texting to 520-433-4098. I've enabled this so you can send 2 different text messages for 2 different responses. And this is an open-ended response. So whatever you type is going to pop up as a nice little tile, and it's totally anonymous as well. So nobody sees your number, nobody sees your name. But we'll get a nice eat more veggies daily, less sweets, cut way down on sugars and sweets, smaller portion sizes, more veggies daily, more veggies / fruits, cook more rather than eat out. I love that. Less carbs. right.
Okay.
That's tough. Who doesn't love pasta? Stop relying on carbs to make me happy. Only you can make you happy, Barbie. Less carbs and learn to cook.
Mm.
You just got to get past the burning water stage. That's all you got to do. All right, I'm loving these responses. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button, move back my screen, unpin myself, and I'll let you go ahead and continue on.
All right. So the reason that I asked that is that it's always important to choose a starting point. Sometimes when you want to make new habits, and this goes with not just your nutrition habits, but it could be your spending habits or, your saving habits or anything. Sometimes if you try to do too much too soon, you might end up being successful for a couple of days or a week or, a couple of weeks or maybe even a month. But then what happens after that is you get very frustrated because you're trying to do too much too quickly. And then oftentimes I see people reverting back to their old ways. So, choose one, maybe two items to focus on and to change. And believe me, doing it that way, you get yourself into a habit, maybe over a month or 6 weeks, you start feeling comfortable with that one change, and then you can add another change along with it. So I did write down some of the goals that you all want to work towards, and we will touch on those as we go through, as I go through the presentation. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about My Plate. My Plate is nutrition recommendations that were developed by the USDA. For those of us who are older, you might remember before My Plate, there was the food guide pyramid. The food guide pyramid is no longer. The My Plate has been around for probably maybe not quite 10 years, but about 10 years. So the basis of my plate is that the benefits of healthy eating, they add up over time and they add up bite by bite. Small changes matter. Again, one change at a time. And then you start with the My Plate. So if you picture a plate, half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. And then the other half should be the grains and protein. So the half of your plates that are fruits and vegetables, well, we'll talk about those a little bit. As far as serving sizes, a serving size of a fruit it's 100% fruit juice and it's a half cup. And if you all can see this, I'll try to hold it up. You see this? I don't know if you can tell how small this cup is, but I filled it a half a cup. So that's really how small a serving size is. And it is of 100% fruit juice, which orange juice, cranberry juice, some apple juice, it'll say 100% fruit juice on the label. A half cup of fresh, canned, frozen fruit is also considered a serving, or a 4th cup of dried fruit. And the reason the dried fruit is so small is dried fruit is all it is it is fresh fruit that all of the liquid, the water has been taken out of. So you've got all of the nutrients, but you don't have the liquid in it. Unfortunately, a lot of dried fruit also has sugar added. And when that happens, you're adding calories, but you're not adding any more nutrition. With fresh fruit, again, half cup is a serving. Canned fruit, you want to be careful. You want to purchase canned fruit that has been packed in its own juices rather than that has been packed in light syrup, heavy syrup, or sometimes it'll just say packed in syrup. The reason for that is, again, they're adding sugar. It's adding calories without adding any more nutrients. Vegetables, 100% vegetable juice is what you want to look for. That's not quite as tricky as what fruit juice is, but you still need to look for the 100% on it. A serving of vegetables is a cup of 100% vegetable juice, a cup of raw, or a cup of cooked, fresh, frozen, or canned vegetables as well. The only thing you need to be really careful there is in canned vegetables. You need to watch for the sodium content, and we'll talk a little bit about sodium content in a few minutes. Frozen, you're not really going to have to worry too much about sodium or the fat in the frozen vegetables, unless it's vegetables where butter or cheese has been added, and then you need to be more careful with that. Now, a lot of times people will say, you know, what fruits and vegetables are the best ones to eat? And I don't know if you've read, you know, every year it's a little bit different, but you read about superfoods. And the reason I kind of have an issue with superfoods because they seem to change at least every year. I mean, one year it was blueberries, next year it was acai berries. It's been mushrooms. It's been, you know, they seem to change all the time. And then people, if you hear it's a superfruit, they think that those are the ones that they have to eat. And to me, if you've ever heard the term eat the color of the rainbow, what that means is all fruits and vegetables are given their colors by the nutrients that they contain. So if you eat different colors, you know, there's red, there's purple, there's yellow, there's blue, green, orange, there's all different colors of fruits and vegetables. And if you vary the colors of the produce that you're choosing, more than likely you're going to get the nutrients that you need. So that to me is about as simple as I can make it. The next is to vary your protein.
Do you mind if I ask you a question? I think it might be easier if we do it this way. And I know you want to get to the next slide, but someone had a question about the size of the plate. Do you have any recommendations about that?
You know what, keep in mind, a lot of the plates nowadays are really oversized plates. I would say, gosh, I would say keep in mind a serving size. You know, a half a cup of fruit is a serving and a cup of vegetables, and you want it to fill the plate. So I would say, you know, vegetables, you would probably want about 2 servings of each. So kind of use that to gauge it. I know there are some plates that are really about the size of a platter. Yeah. So is anything else?
One other question was, doesn't 100% fruit juice have fructose, sugar, and the fiber was removed? And that's a question. So,
you know, if it may have fructose, if it's 100% fruit juice, because there is some fructose that is naturally occurring in the fruit. Mm-hmm. And there is a difference because there's high fructose corn syrup, and that's what you really want to be careful of. The fructose in and of itself it's 2 different things. So I wouldn't be as concerned about that. You're absolutely right about the fiber has been removed from the juice. So it's best not to get much of your fruit, if any, from fruit juice. And I think, for example, those of you with children, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends no more than a half a cup of juice a day for kids. And for adults, no more than a cup of juice a day for adults. So, and part of that is that you're not getting that whole complement of nutrients that's in it, especially the fiber.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
So the next, then we're going to talk about the varying your protein sources. And, you know, a lot of times people will say, oh gosh, I think I should be a vegetarian, or I should be a vegan, or I shouldn't eat red meat, or I should eat more fish. And, you know, there is more than one way to have a healthy diet. And I think I've seen vegetarians who have very, very healthy diets. I've seen vegetarians whose diets are really not that healthy. So again, all of these seafood, meat, including red meat, poultry, eggs, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, seeds, and soy products, any of these can be a healthy addition to your diet. And it really depends on your choices, and it depends on what works for you. So, you know, again, don't discount anything that's in here. If it's something that's important to you, it can all be included into your diet. So as far as serving sizes for the protein sources, it's an ounce of meat. Now, most of us, we're going to eat more than an ounce of meat. So when I tell you the serving sizes, it doesn't mean you can only have 1 serving, but we're just comparing the serving sizes. So it's either an ounce of meat, a 1/4 cup of cooked beans, 1 egg, 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, and then a 1/2 ounce of nuts and seeds. So that kind of gives you a comparison for the serving sizes. The reason that the protein sources are important, in addition to protein, you're going to get a lot of B vitamins. You're also going to get iron and zinc. And then I kind of wanted to say, because for people in the with a bleeding disorder, iron deficiency, it can be very common. So I want to compare with the protein sources, especially red meat. You're going to get, there's heme iron and there's non-heme iron. You're going to get heme iron in your meat products, so the meat, poultry, and seafood. That is iron that is more readily digested and absorbed by our bodies. But you are going to get iron too when you in a lot of vegetables, especially the dark green leafy vegetables. Now, if you're getting your iron through plant sources, you're going to want to eat a food that's high in vitamin C. So that can be, it can be strawberries, it can be tomatoes, it can be peppers, it can even be tomato juice, or it can even be a little squirt of ketchup on your hamburger. All of those are foods that are high in vitamin C, and they're going to help our bodies absorb that iron that we're getting in our diet, and our body's going to be able to use that a little bit better. All right. Next, we're going to talk. So the next is choose low fat or non-fat dairy if you tolerate it. Some people don't tolerate it. Some people are lactose intolerant, or they may have some kind of dairy allergy. If you don't tolerate it, the dairy alternatives are absolutely fine. And I think the ones that you hear about the most are going to be almond milk and soy milk. What you want to keep in mind, though, is that dairy foods themselves contain calcium, potassium, vitamin D, and dairy contains quite a bit of protein as well. If you're choosing a non-dairy alternative, you're not going to get the same nutrients. So you either want to try to choose like a soy milk that has been fortified with dairy or with calcium and vitamin D, or you want to choose some other food sources that's going to give you the calcium and vitamin D. As far as serving sizes, 1 cup of milk, 1 cup of yogurt, and 1.5 ounces of cheese is going to be a serving of dairy. And then let's see, lastly, you want 1/4 of your plate to be whole grains. And of that, you want half of your grains to be whole grains. There's whole grain and there's refined grains. The difference is just in the processing. And what happens is the more that a grain is processed, the more refined it is. And through that process, fiber, iron, magnesium, selenium, and the B vitamins have been taken out of it. Now, in the United States, for refined grains, most of those nutrients have been added back into it. The only thing that's not added back is fiber on it typically. So you're going to kind of want to watch for that. They kind of make it tricky too when you think you may be buying a whole grain, you may not be buying it. On the front, there's going to be a little whole grain symbol sometimes. And the symbol, it looks like a little postage stamp, and it looks like a little sheath of wheat. That's what the sign looks like. If that's on it, it's whole grain. Sometimes the label will say 12 grain bread or 9 grain bread, or it'll say wheat bread. Those are not necessarily whole grain. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to turn it around, look at the ingredient list, and if the very first ingredient is not whole grain, then it is not a whole grain product. So sometimes they kind of make it a little tricky for you, and you think you're doing something that you may not be doing. Also with the MyPlate, they recommend using healthy oils, and oil is going to be something that is liquid at room temperature. So again, when you go through the grocery store, you're going to see olive oil, canola oil, safflower, peanut oil. There's just a whole walnut. A lot of the nut oils are going to be liquid at room temperature. So those are the ones that you are going to, it's recommended that you use. These oils are going to provide unsaturated fats and vitamin E. And those are going to contribute to reducing your risk of heart disease. And they also can increase your HDL, which is your good cholesterol. Let's see. The next thing is, I know a couple of people had talked about limiting their sugar intake. And this one, I'm telling you, I've been really paying attention to this over the last several months, and it's really shocked me. So first of all, when you're looking at sugar, right now, the food labels have changed a little bit, and sugar actually gets 2 lines now where it used to just get 1. The first line is the total sugar that's in that food item. And it's going to include added sugars and naturally occurring sugars. Naturally occurring sugars, we're not really going to worry so much about, because if it's typically naturally occurring sugars are going to be in things like fruit. Fruit has a lot of nutrients in it. And milk also has a decent amount of naturally occurring sugar. And again, both of those items both of those foods are going to have a lot of nutrients. So we're not going to worry as much about the naturally occurring sugar as we are the second line. The second line is the added sugars. And those are the ones that they added for flavor, for texture, for consistency. Those are the ones that have added, again, calories without adding any nutrition. So those, when you look at that, and I guess let's go, so for men, it's recommended that they have no more than 36 grams of added sugar a day. And for women, it's recommended that women have no more than 25 grams of added sugar a day. And if you look at, I kind of, when I went grocery shopping this week, I was just looking so I could make some comparisons. A lot of breakfast cereals, if you eat 1 serving, have 12 to 15 grams of added sugar. So that's with something that you're having for a meal. Yeah. And barbecue sauce, I think it's a 2 tablespoon serving has 6 grams of added sugar. Ketchup has added sugar. If you drink coffee in the morning and you have a coffee creamer, that could have added sugar in it. And we're not even getting to like the candies, cake, cookies, all of that. So, if you're trying to cut down on your added sugar, really kind of hone in on the nutrition labels, look at the added sugar, and, really kind of try to go for that 36 grams if you're a guy, and then 25 grams for a female. And that way you get to make your own choices too. Next is sodium. And I think most of us know that a good segment of the population is salt sensitive. And being that we eat a lot of processed foods and we eat out a lot, we tend to eat a lot of sodium, and that can contribute to our elevated blood pressure. Now, I have a lot of people that tell me, you know what, I don't use a lot of salt at the table. I don't salt my food. I just eat it as it comes. So I don't eat a lot of sodium. Believe it or not, most of the sodium that we eat comes from processed foods, canned foods, and eating out. So we can actually get a lot of sodium without even thinking it. And we are, as a society, we're very desensitized to salt. So a lot of times we don't really even notice it. So with that, any fresh, let's say fresh vegetables have very minimum sodium. Sometimes there's a little naturally occurring. Most fresh meat is not going to have sodium, although sometimes, especially like chicken and turkey, they're going to add they're going to inject some liquid in it, and the liquid will have sodium in it. So sometimes we'll get a turkey breast and it's going to be higher in sodium, and we're going to be like, what's going on? And that's the reason, is they just injected some sodium and some water in it. So for sodium, if you're looking to decrease your sodium, or if you're just wanting to be a little more aware, the number that's the most important is 140 milligrams or less per serving is considered low sodium. And again, tonight, when you go into your pantry or your cupboard, wherever you keep your canned goods or your food, compare that. Most regular vegetables are going to have 300 or more milligrams per serving, and that's per half cup serving. And here's your half cup serving. So it's a pretty small amount and a lot of sodium, especially if you're going to try to stick with that 2,300 milligrams. Saturated fat. So while the oils are going to be liquid at room temperature, saturated fat is going to be solid at room temperature. So butter is going to be mostly a saturated fat, lard, and then even though the term is coconut oil, if you look at coconut oil, it's going to be solid at room temperature. Doesn't mean you can't use those, but you might want to use them less often or in smaller amounts because they're going to have more saturated fat. Saturated fat does the opposite of the healthy oils, and it may actually increase your risk for heart disease, and it may increase your LDL, which is the bad cholesterol. So what does this mean for all of us? And first of all, I wanted to point out that every single one of us needs the exact same nutrients. So, we all need carbohydrates, protein, and fat. We all need calcium and vitamin D and B vitamins. We all need fiber. So while we all need it, the amounts that we need is going to differ based on our age, our body size, our health status, and our gender. And what I mean by health status is, if you're diabetic, you're going to need fewer carbs than if you're not diabetic. If you have an iron deficiency, your iron needs are going to be more than if you don't have an iron deficiency. So that's the health status. So then with that, keep in mind that there is more, what?
Hey, Tina, real quick, we had a question before we go past oils too fast or too far.
Sure.
There was a question in chat of what exactly is the healthiest oil? We talking olive, we talking coconut, canola, vegetable oil, avocado oil. I know canola's oil is actually not very healthy for you. And olive oil is really good for you. I'm pretty sure. But I think bottom line, is it an avocado?
I think all of the oils.
Is the bell still out on that?
I think the oils in and of themselves are fine. Where it comes in is like some oils are better for cooking and because it depends on their smoke point. Like if they have a low smoke point, I think you're not going to want to cook with them. You're going to make them, maybe make a salad dressing or, if they have a higher smoke point, then you're going to want to cook with them. But most of the oils are really going to be avocado. You think of as being better for you. Olive oil is still going to be better for you. And then there's the vegetable oil that I think that's the one that you notice most when you go into a grocery store. And that's actually a combination of a bunch of different oils. And that's also going to be one that's good for you. But, I know people who cook with walnut oil. And I think the most important thing is that it's liquid at room temperature. Coconut oil, I know there has been this big thing with it over the last couple of years. Coconut oil really, as far as heart health goes. So, you can look at different things, but as far as heart health goes, coconut oil would not be one that you would choose if you're looking at heart health.
Okay. And there's also soybean oil, grapeseed oil. There's a ton of oil. There's a ton of oils.
There are a lot of oils. And I think a lot of them, what you would want to do is you need to look at the smoke point, look at what you're going to do with it, and then use it in that way. But all of those that you mentioned are really reasonably healthy oils.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Do they list smoke point on the label?
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing that on the label. I think that's something that you have to look up and see. And you know what? Sometimes a lot of recipes will call for a certain oil, and then I would go with that oil because the recipe has been tested using that. Mm-hmm. Or if you really want, like if you like avocado oil and you really want to see how you can use that, I would look avocado oil up online, look at the uses of it, and then that way you're not disappointed. Especially the biggest deal is if you're going to cook with it and you put it on the stove and it burns. I mean, then that can be then you're gonna have to start over with another oil.
I know that offhand, vegetable oil, canola oil, corn oil all have a high smoke point. A high smoke point means that it takes a very, very high temperature in order for it to actually reach an actual smoke point where you see the saucepan and there's some kind of smoke coming off of it. I would say that probably avocado, in addition to olive oil, have a low smoke point, which means that it doesn't take very much heat to actually start burning an olive oil, or burning an avocado oil as well.
Yeah. So you kind of have to be more careful with those. And then the other thing.
I hope that helps, Sherry.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was talking to. I was hoping I hope I answered Sherry's question.
Okay. And then the other thing, like with olive oil can have a very strong flavor to it. So it can actually add to the flavor of whatever you're doing. So, you have to be aware of that. But it's just as far as the health properties, I would look at if it's liquid at room temperature, it's reasonable. If it's solid at room temperature, use it a little less frequently.
So you don't really have, just to understand, so we're trying to cook veggies, we're trying to be healthy. What would you at a very high temp? Do you have a suggestion as to what might be the healthiest oil?
You know what, I have in my pantry, I have olive oil, and then I have just the vegetable oil.
Me too, okay.
And a lot of people really like using and there's nothing wrong with having, there's nothing wrong with having them. The other thing is, so I do too, just to make it simple. The other thing is oils do go bad. And if you've got a bunch of different oils, you have to make sure that you're using them, in a timely manner.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right. So there is more than one way to eat a healthy diet. And, people, let's just say I'm talking to Chris and he asked me a question and then I talk to Joan, I may not give them the exact same answer to a pretty similar question just because they're different people. So you have to look at where you're starting, what your goals are. You have to look at your lifestyle. You have to look, do you like to cook? Do you not like to cook? So there's a lot that goes into a healthy diet. One diet does not fit all. So, kind of be accepting of that, be realistic. You can, I guess the thing that I like to the example I like to use, somebody's bringing in a cake for someone's birthday. Can you have a piece of that birthday cake? Absolutely. Can you have a large piece of, you may not be able to have as big of a piece as you want. You may not be able to have a second piece, but, so be realistic about that. Be adventurous. I think this is my favorite time of year because around here, the farmers markets, a lot of them have opened or they're getting ready to open. You can, if you go to a farmer's market, look for things that you haven't tried before. And it's really nice because, you can buy small amounts. You don't have to buy a big package of whatever it is. And then the people who are selling it, typically they're going to say, this is the best way to prepare it, or this is how you eat it, or, so they're a good resource too. Again, be flexible. If your goal is to get, 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, and one day you're busy, you've had to go through the drive-through or you've had to eat out and you're only at 3 or 4, that's fine. Most days you want to be able to meet your goals, but you're not going to be able to meet them every day. And, be flexible and that's fun. And then be sensible. And to me, most of all, have fun, because eating is more than just the nutrients in the food. It's also, it's also very social. It's also something that we enjoy eating. We enjoy talking about it, swapping recipes, and it should be fun as well. All right, so what I really recommend these on this page, these are mostly their calorie counters. And when people tell me that they want to make changes, what I recommend is these are all very good. They're all very similar. You would create an account. Usually they ask for your age, your gender, your height and weight, your activity level. And then, so what I recommend is that it gives you a calorie level. I actually recommend, if you're going to do this, that the first 3 to 5 days, you make absolutely no changes in your eating habits. Because what that does is that gives you a really good idea of what you're currently doing. And I think sometimes we really are aware and we do know exactly what we're doing, but our days get busy. We have jobs, we have kids, we have lives, and we sometimes lose track, and maybe we're not doing as bad of a job as what we think we are, or maybe we're not doing as good of a job as what we think we are. So, take 3 to 5 days, try to eat normally, whatever's normal is for you. Then what you do is after each day, you can see how you did. It'll give you, your carbs, your protein, your fat. It'll also tell you how much calcium, vitamin A, C, it'll tell you all of the nutrients that you got. And then that's another way. Oh, the sugar, sometimes it'll ding you because it'll say, what's your sugar intake or your sodium intake? So by using these, it really lets you know where you are, and it can help you achieve your goals. So next, we're going to kind of switch. If nobody has any other questions on the food guide pyramid or food, we're going to switch over to supplements for a few minutes. Okay. All right. So if you take a supplement, what supplement do you take?
Here I am yelling at my mic and I'm muted. Vote by texting 520-433-4098. I've enabled this for 5 responses just in case someone out there potentially takes 5 supplements. Actually, real quick, Tina, would you maybe a broad or brief definition of what you would consider a supplement? We're talking iron. We're talking, someone takes a vitamin D daily, so they, for seasonal effective or whatever. What's a supplement in your eyes?
Okay, so while people are going, we'll go ahead here.
Yeah. Wonderful.
So a supplement, it's not a food, it's not a drug. It's a product that most always is taken orally, and it contains a dietary ingredient. And what that means is anything that is a supplement is going to be found in food. So again, calcium, vitamin D, vitamin C, B vitamins, phosphorus, potassium, all of those, anything that you find in a food, most anything, not everything, you can find in supplement form.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay.
We're getting responses of women's 1 a day, fiber, proferin, iron, magnesium, fiber, multivitamin once a day, vitamin D, wheat germ, calcium.
Okay.
Iron supplement, proferin, heme iron.
Someone said they were low in B12 and they eat meat and cheese. Any reason why that might be the case, Tina? Do you have any advice?
And I'm not
Prenatals.
sure. What comes to mind is as we get older, so B12 is absorbed through our digestive tract with something that's called intrinsic factor. As we get older, the intrinsic factor either doesn't work as well, or we may not have, it may kind of go to the wayside. And so even though we're eating meat, we may not absorb the B12. And then typically people will have to take a B12, some kind of B12 supplement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else, Chris?
I'm seeing probiotics, iron, vitamin D3, potassium, calcium, zinc, turmeric. Tell me more. Tell me what the more is. I want to know what the more is. No, this is good. This word cloud is incredible.
Okay.
There's a lot in here. So
awesome.
Trickling in. I'm going to go ahead and hit the stop button. I'm going to unpin myself so it goes back to you.
Okay. All right. So we talked about what a supplement is. And a supplement is meant to supplement the diet. It is not meant to replace healthy foods. Because I don't have a lot of people that say this, but sometimes people will say, you know what, I have a horrible diet, but I take a supplement, so it's fine. And that really is not the case, because there still are some nutrients that are in foods that are not in supplement form. So, again, it's not meant to replace a healthy diet. Now, some of you may know this, some of you may be kind of surprised, but there is no supplement that is regulated by the FDA. And so what this means is that if you take a supplement, it may or may not contain, you know how on a supplement it'll say, like I'll just say multivitamin. Will tell you all the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals that are in the multivitamin. It'll tell you the amounts and the percent of the RDI. So with a multivitamin, it may or may not have those specific nutrients. and it may or may not have those amounts of nutrients in them. How you can tell if it does is look at the bottle, and if the bottle you want it, and it's in decent sized letters, it'll have USP on the bottle. USP stands for United States Pharmacopoeia, and what that means is that the manufacturer of the supplement has taken their supplement, given it to the USP. The USP has tested it and has found that it does contain what it's supposed to contain and in the amounts that it's supposed to contain. So I would say if you take a supplement, make sure that it has that USP on the label. If it doesn't, it could mean that the manufacturer just didn't see fit to send it to the USP, or it could mean that it failed the test and it doesn't have what it has in it. So, and you have no way of knowing that. So again, just if you're going to take a supplement, you want it to have the USP on it. Sometimes people think too, if a little bit of a supplement is good, a lot must be better. And the one thing to keep in mind is that supplements, so there's some supplements are water soluble. If you take too many of those, most of that is going to be eliminated through either our urine or a bowel movement. If it's a fat soluble vitamin, it's going to be stored it can be stored in the liver, it can be stored in the fat of our bodies, but our bodies, our liver, our kidneys all have to process these supplements. If you take too much, it really can be hard on especially our liver and our kidney. The other thing is, if you're taking prescription medication, you're going to want to be careful because some supplements interact with prescription medication. It can either make them work more potently, or it can make them work less potently. So I would say, again, always let your doctor know if you're taking any kind of supplement. If you have questions or you're not sure, you can ask your doctor. You can ask a dietitian. Probably the easiest person to get to is you can ask your pharmacist. And they've got your whole list of prescriptions that you're taking. And when you show them the supplement, they can say, yes, this is going to interfere with your prescription, or no, it's not. They also know about, if it's going to hurt the kidneys or the liver. So, make sure that, a multivitamin is fine. Typically, you don't have to say anything if you're taking a multivitamin. I mean, you may tell your doctor that, but it's really some of these other individual nutrients. And when you start taking them at a higher dose, you're going to want to be more careful and let people know. Also, a dietary, as I talked about before, a dietary supplement is not going to fix poor food choices. A high dose of the supplement can't prevent, treat, or cure cancer or other chronic illnesses. Taking a vitamin is not going to give you more energy or brain power. The only thing that's going to give you more energy are carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Emotional stress, if you're under a lot of stress, that's not going to increase your nutrient needs. Your needs are going to stay the same. And dietary supplements, they're not going to prevent you from the effects of smoking or alcohol or other drug abuse. And also, supplements are not going to give you immediate results. And for those of you who maybe have had an iron deficiency or a vitamin D deficiency, you know that, when you've been diagnosed with this and your physician is going to recommend an iron supplement or a vitamin D supplement, they will check after a certain period to see if your levels are rebounding, but they typically aren't going to check. I mean, I even think a month or longer. So it is going to take you a while to really get the effects from any supplement that you take. There's also, the Institute of Medicine, they're kind of the hub that makes recommendations for supplements, and they recommend supplement use in these situations. They do recommend that people, if you're not real good about getting calcium in your foods, they do recommend you take a calcium or vitamin D supplement. And again, usually a multivitamin will take care of that. Women of childbearing age, they recommend to take additional folic acid. And women of childbearing age, oftentimes they may take a prenatal vitamin, and that's going to have that extra folic acid in there for them. Omega-3 fatty acids for heart health, and we are going to talk about that in a little more detail. People with bleeding disorders, may or may not be able to take the omega-3, and we'll talk about that a little bit in one of the next couple of slides. There's also supplements called AREDs, and that's a combination of vitamin C, E, copper, zinc, lutein, and zeaxanthin. And those are thought to be effective for some people who have an age-related macular degeneration. So that might be a possibility for them. And then if you have a true vitamin deficiency, so the B12, the calcium deficiency, the iron and vitamin D, those are the ones you hear mostly, then a supplement's going to be beneficial for you. So now we'll talk about herbs and botanicals. And herbs and botanicals are also made from foods or from plants. They have been used for centuries. They've been used especially in Eastern medicine. And people think, again, that there's nothing inherently wrong with them because they're natural. This is going to be the same as with vitamins and minerals. Is just because they're natural does not mean that they're going to be safe for everybody. Depends on the amount that you take. Again, it can have effect on your liver and your kidneys. It can interact with prescription medications. So if you take them, you do want to check with your dietitian, your doctor, or a pharmacist. And again, the herbs and botanicals are not regulated by the FDA either. So they may or may not contain what they say they're going to, or what they contain, what they say they are. And then this, and all of you, this is something that I use at our Indiana Hemophilia Treatment Center. This is a bleeding, it's a card for herbs to avoid if you have a bleeding disorder. And what I wanted to point out with these, you can also download it. There's the website. You can get on the website and download it and keep it with you in case, when you're out looking for herbs, if you're questioning whether or not it's okay to use, this is a good place to start. It's not all inclusive though. So I just want to let you know that, but it does have a pretty good amount of herbs on it. I did want to let you know though, if you notice, there's fish oil and vitamin E. They are ones that you probably don't want to go through as a supplement. However, fatty fish, so salmon, mackerel, tuna, herring, those are all fatty fish that contain these. You can eat as much of those as you want. The difference is that when you're eating the fish, you're getting the protein and you're getting the omega-3 and vitamin E, but you're also getting all of the other nutrients. When you're taking the supplement, you're getting a bigger bang for your buck in the supplement, and that can kind of put you at risk for developing a bleed. And the same goes for, you'll look here, flaxseed supplements, you probably want to be careful with. Garlic, you want to be careful with. However, you can eat flaxseed and you can eat garlic to your heart's content, and that should not have any an issue with you. Again, let your, especially your doctor that treats your bleeding disorder, let them know. Oftentimes, depending on our patient, we may say, go ahead and take them. But just let us know if you get it, if you notice any more bruising or bleeding, let us know, and then we'll recommend that you discontinue taking it or discontinue the use. So with that is all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Real quick, I actually did a quick Google search and I found your article from Hemaware in June of 2010, and I put that in chat for everybody on herbal and dietary supplements. It's like, ooh, look what I found.
That's 2010. That shows you how long I've been working at the Indiana HTC.
It looked good. It's a good article. I breezed through it while you're talking. I was like, ooh, piece of candy.
Any other questions?
I think we did a good job. But yeah, we can wait a second and see if anybody posts some more in chat. If anybody wants to use their mic and they want to hop in and say and voice their question real quick, that's cool too. How do you feel about meal replacement shakes?
Meal replacement shakes actually can be a good choice. I would not use them for more than one meal a day because, again, you still want the nutrients that other foods are going to provide you. But a meal replacement shake, make sure, look at the added sugar, get one with less added sugar, but a meal replacement shake is fine.
Do you know
Awesome.
anything about, I'm going to say this wrong, Protandim? Am I saying that right?
Maybe you want to.
Protandin?
Oh, no.
Okay. Someone had just mentioned it in the chat. And I thought, I wonder what that is.
Oh,
How do you spell that?
protandem. Is that what you're trying? Is that what it
I'm
is?
not sure. Do you see it? Where is it?
So from Sherry, right?
Yes, Protandem. Yes.
Protandem.
Thanks.
I'm hooked on phonics.
Can you spell that again? Because I'm going to look it up. I'll look it up later.
Protandim.
No, I don't.
Dim.
I've never heard of that.
No, I want dim sum. I saw the end of that. I'm scrolling down. Supplements and minerals, protein. She put it back in chat for us. Thank you, Sherry. Well, in Indiana, the person told me about was it Tita?
Well, I hope it wasn't me, because I would like, I'm definitely going to have to look it up.
Google's a crazy place.
Yes, it is.
All right, I will go ahead and there's no other
Miss
questions. I'm
Willis,
gonna.
I have a
you got one?
question about my blood work came back as B9 deficient folate. Do you recommend B9 by itself or a B complex?
Gosh, you know what? How deficient were you? Was it
Pretty
just-
nominal. It was just below the range.
Okay. You know, if it was just below the range, I would do a B complex, or yeah, I would do a B complex.
And then for vitamin D, I live in Florida. If I'm outside, 15 minutes a day, you think I'm hitting my quota?
They say if you're outside 15 minutes a day and you are, and the sun hits your skin, you should be fine.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Way more than we get in Massachusetts.
Oh, and in Indiana.
I think I have you beat in Michigan.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe.
yeah.
Especially if you're in the northern part of Michigan, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Is keto or intermittent fasting healthy?
I think with keto, it's kind of whenever somebody tells me they want to try a keto diet, I always ask them what keto means to them, because there's keto diets that are very, very strict, and then there are some that are a little more liberal. I would say for me, any vegetable or any diet that severely restricts fruits and vegetables, I would be wary of. I think most keto diets, they restrict a little bit the fruit. They're a little more liberal on vegetables, and I think that that's fine. I'd also be careful though about the types of protein, because again, some keto diets, I've noticed, like, they don't care if you eat a lot of sausage and bacon, but others they want you to have more of the lean. So it really depends on what the keto diet means to you. And then as far as intermittent fasting, I've heard a lot of good things about it. I would say it depends on your current state of health. There are people, diabetics maybe should not do intermittent fasting, especially if their blood sugars are kind of, their blood sugars are unstable. I think if you're a healthy person, a generally healthy person with no issues, I think intermittent fasting may be beneficial. But again, I wouldn't start with that extreme. I think some people, there's like 6 hours a day that they eat. I would start more doing maybe a 12 and 12, where you don't eat for 12 hours and you eat for 12 hours. I would start there. And then, because the other thing is if you do it too extreme at the beginning, you're going to get a lot of headaches. You could get a lot of blood sugar issues. You could get shakes. So just be careful if you want to do the intermittent fasting, and start. I wouldn't start with anything more than 12 hours on, 12 hours off.
We had another question Alvara asked about becoming vegan. Is it healthier than grass-fed meat eaters? What healthier is the word for it? Or does...
So I would say that there are some, like when you look,
branch out, I think.
you what?
Things branch out, I think. It's like when you take a certain path, it's like this is what the benefits are for this, and this is what the benefits are for that. And
Exactly. So a vegan diet does have some benefits, but then it also has others, because you're not getting a special. Okay, so if you are iron deficient, it's going to be harder for you to get the iron. B12 in a vegan diet, you're not going to get, well, a lot of vegetarian diets, especially a vegan diet, it's going to be a little harder to get the B12. Again, I would say if that's what you're really motivated to do, I would say talk with somebody that knows about being vegan to make sure you're getting all of your nutrients. It's not something like I would never say to somebody, hey, I think you need to be a vegan. I think if somebody wants to be a vegan, I would help them achieve their goals.
fantastic. All right, I don't see any more questions.
Okay.
I'm going to hit the button, and I'm going to give a quick round of applause. Tina, thank you for coming on and gracing us with such an insane amount of knowledge.
All right. Well,
yeah,
thank you all.
I see claps in chat. Love the claps in chat. Thank you, plumbers. Next week on May 20th, we will be doing a presentation. This is going to be a Von Willebrand's presentation by Jonathan Roberts, and he's from the Bleeding and Clotting Disorders of Illinois. Individuals and immediate family members living with VWD are going to be invited to attend. The following week after that, June 3rd, we're going to have Annabelle on. For those of you who don't know Annabelle, she's a licensed clinical social worker. She's incredible. She's been to quite a few of our vets. Quite a few have probably met her. If you haven't, we're going to have her on June 3rd, and she's got a wonderful presentation on mental health. And this is going to be everybody. All bleeding disorders are going to be invited. So if you got the email today for this, you're going to get the email for that. Following week is going to be Gene Therapy Jeopardy. That sounds like actually a lot of fun. This is going to be, we're doing this in partnership with BioMarin. The intended audience will be hemophilia A and B non-inhibitors, but all bleeding disorders are going to be welcome for this as well, because there's going to be a ton of useful information in that presentation as well. And then this is tentative for June 17th. Advocacy with Connie and Barb. They're just so super, I said it earlier, they're super popular. They're so hard to nail down. But we're hoping we're going to have them for June 17th.
You nailed it.
All right, guys. Thank you all for coming out and taking your time on a Thursday night. Love to see you all, and we'll see you all very soon.